Hey Chad, hello. How's it going? Happy Thursday. I told you this would happen, and it did. And it's on time.
Ish.
It's close. It's real good. It's Real Good Thursday. Welcome back for another Real Good Thursday. If you don't know what Real Good Thursday is, it's a thing where I host a stream. I'm on my channels, but I'm also on the Real Good channels. If you're not following those channels, you should check it out. And in this stream, we occasionally just hang out with members of the Real Good team and play games and talk about what we have going on. But when it's not one of those team streams, we have very interesting guests who have very interesting discussions. And today is one of those days with the guests. We're very lucky to have a fun and fascinating guest with some really interesting research and work to talk about. We're joined, as usual, when we have guests by Mandy and Imen from the Real Good staff. But also today, we're going to be talking to, well, you know what, Imen? I will let you do the introduction because I don't want to mess it up.
So we are going to talk to Dr. Marissa Smith. So is she here?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes. Hi, Marissa. So little introduction. So Marissa has a PhD in anthropology from Princeton University and a Bachelor of Anthropology and Russian from Beloit College. She basically writes about politics, economy, human rights in Mongolia, Russia, and many other things. But also, she is a user experience researcher, and we will talk about that. So, Marissa, welcome to our stream.
And so good to be here.
Yeah, good to be here. So, Marissa, can you introduce yourself with your words and tell us, let's start from the beginning. What was your research through your PhD? Because it's intriguing. I saw everyone in the chat about Mongolia and what you did there.
Sure, yeah. Thanks for the introduction. I think that's pretty good. So yeah, I can just start from my PhD research was about. That's what I should do. Yeah. So I, as you mentioned, did a bachelor's degree in anthropology and Russian at Beloit College in Wisconsin. And at the time, Beloit was super internationally focused. I think it still is, but COVID obviously really messed with international education for a lot of schools, and they're still sort of trying to get it back together. But for many years, Beloit was actually the highest percentage of students who did Peace Corps, and they had the highest percentage of their students studying abroad of any small liberal arts college, at least. So it's a really small school. There were under 1,500 people there, students, when I was there. So it's small, but a very high percentage of people studying abroad, and lots of international students also studying at the school. So I studied abroad for a whole year.
Where did you go?
Russia, so Moscow. And then I also was in Mongolia for a semester each.
So, first question, why Russia and why Mongolia?
Yeah, so just kind of to set up the sort of doing tech stuff, I guess, as well. I was very interested in industry and economy, and this was the mid-2000s, so I grew up sort of right after the sort of fall of the Soviet Union and all of that stuff, so I was just very interested in okay, what's happening there now with this reorganization of the international order. And I'm from Wyoming, which is a very rural place, but also really industrialized, so lots of mining and oil. What was happening, and also sheep and cows. Wyoming has more
cows and people.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. It's like that was a long pause. We seem to have lost Marissa. Oh, there she is.
See, as soon as I said like livestock. Anyway.
So you were saying, yeah. So
to kind of my PhD topic, which I like applied to Princeton with the support of anthropology faculty at my college. So my college actually also is a big anthropology school. Like they also had like the highest percentage of people who had anthropology PhDs or something like that, some metric. So anthropology was a big focus there as well. So anyway, they supported me, and I was like, yes, I want to study this Soviet-built mine in.
We are losing Marissa.
Tough internet day. It might be because of the video on her end.
Maybe Marissa, maybe you can turn off the video.
Of course, yeah. Let me see. Okay. Try that.
Okay. So you were saying you are in Princeton studying anthropology. What did you do? What did you study, and how was what was your research? Tell us more.
Yeah, so Princeton's anthropology program has like a big focus on legal anthropology. So looking at like corporate structures and how that was a lot of time what I was looking at as well was so by the time I was doing my PhD program, this was like 2010s, Russia had there was the, probably no one remembers this now, but the war with Georgia. This was before Russia invaded Crimea, but things were kind of falling apart with the sort of way things looked like they were going to be 5 to 10 years prior, with the sort of geopolitical reordering post collapse of the Soviet Union. So my research became sort of focused on how people at this mine in Mongolia, what were they doing? They're infrastructurally connected to Russia. Like it's still very integrated with Russia, but those people want to be internationally focused. So they had all these other projects to work with people from Finland and the United States and Germany and around the world. So my research, and they wanted to do business with them as well. So my dissertation kind of became focused on like how are they maintaining all of those relationships when
Mongolia with the international partners.
Yes.
I see. Was it specifically targeted to miners and the mining industry?
Yes, but basically the deal is their economy was developed to basically be mining, and everything else is sort of a shoot of mining at this point. There's like some small industry that's like making carpets, making vodka, like very light industry. But everything else is completely centered around the mining industry or livestock. But the livestock infrastructure is very underdeveloped.
I see.
So before we go too far into the weeds, I was hoping we could come out a little bit and explain for someone who doesn't know what an anthropologist is, or like how did you get interested in it, and can you explain like at a TED Talk level like what it means to you? Because I guess I'm surprised you're talking about Russia and specific mining culture. That's not what I thought anthropology is. Obviously I'm wrong, but we would love a more specific definition.
So basically you go to, and I'm glad Minecraft is very appropriate here. So basically, anthropology is. Have you heard of Margaret Mead before?
No.
Okay, have either Bob or have you guys heard of her? She used to be very like famous in the United States as like sort of a public intellectual, but not so much anymore.
I have probably heard the name, but I don't remember a
Uh-huh.
meaningful amount of information, no.
Okay. She became very infamous in like the 70s because she like wrote like a Red Book column or something, and she said like marijuana is like good, and then it was like this like huge scandal or something. But yeah, it's kind of only I think people who are like our grandparents' age who sort of remember who she is now. But anyway, so the idea is like as an anthropologist, you want to learn about a culture, you learn the language, you go there and like live in the place for an extended period of time.
People. Okay. And what's the goal of anthropology? Is like you have a question and you try to answer it through like being in that community. So it's like focused on human, right?
Yeah. So it's related to like psychology and sociology and political science and disciplines like that.
Mhm.
But it's you can't really use the sort of normal scientific method or experimental design because you're making it up. You're like embracing the making it up as you go along.
I
Like
see.
you go there with an initial question, but you're so open that like your initial questions are going to be wrong, so you're constantly updating them.
Is it one of those things where you interact with the people a lot, or is it one of those where you're there merely to observe?
Studying.
You are basically completely dependent on people there. So like I lived in a dormitory owned by this mining company, and I needed to know where to like buy food, and something broke, I needed to be able to get help from people, and stuff breaks a lot.
I'm assuming this isn't like
Yeah.
reality TV where they drop you off from a helicopter, you don't speak the language, and they're like, all right, figure it out. But it sounds very
Survivor.
exciting, potentially.
Except like I did already speak the language, and but yeah, like the way that I literally like as we say like gained access to this field site, I just like got on the train, and the train tracks flooded, so the train was stuck for 3 days in northern Mongolia. But this was fortuitous because I had a chance to get to know a guy who was randomly on the train with me, who was basically he was buying American mining equipment and selling it to different mining companies in Mongolia. And so he knew one of the directors in the mining company, and so now I was like, oh, like, hey, I'm trying to like do research there. So as soon as like we got off the train, basically, like he was like, hey, I'm introducing you to these people, and they were like, yeah, we want an American to hang out with us, like an American who speaks Russian and Mongolian, like to hang out with us in our laboratory.
So it's like from what you're describing, it seems like an Indiana Jones kind of like anthropologist and archaeologist kind of, like there's an adventure kind of like you take a chance and you just go and discover things, but there is like this studying the population, kind of like Indiana Jones. They do some anthropology. Do you consider Indiana Jones as an anthropologist?
Yeah, so funnily enough, the guy that Indiana Jones is supposedly based on went to Beloit College and went to Mongolia.
See?
Ah,
See? I was
yes.
close.
But he was actually looking for dinosaur fossils. He discovered the first dinosaur eggs.
Okay.
And he's notorious for doing shit like driving around Mongolia. Oh, sorry if I'm using too many expletives.
No, you're good.
No,
You're good.
He was notorious for driving around Mongolia in his like Ford Model T and like shooting himself in the leg with his own gun and stuff like that. So,
So
Okay.
kind of like the movies, but none of the completely outlandish things he tried to do ever worked. He would use his whip to try and disarm the Nazi and just like throw his whip and the guy would be like, okay, anyway,
I haven't like read all of his stuff, but I mean, he was like there in the 20s, and evidently, which is when this. So Mongolia didn't become part of the Soviet Union because it became a communist country before the Soviet Union existed. So it was the second communist country in the world.
Oh wow!
So Roy Chapman Andrews, the guy one of the people that Indiana Jones is based on, I have seen some things suggesting that like he was there in the 20s and he wasn't able to go back to do any more expeditions because the Soviet advisors to the Mongolians or whatever were like, that guy is a fucking spy. So like the reality of it is like more Indiana Jones than Indiana Jones, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Totally.
And there were people like Sven Hedin, this Swedish guy who was also in Mongolia, who was working for the Nazis.
Oh, so there was some truth in these movies. Interesting.
All right, as our new Indiana Jones expert, can you tell me if the fridge would help him survive the nuke? Tell me if that. No, sorry. We can talk about real stuff. Go ahead, Amit.
It depends on what kind of fridge it is. Anyway.
So you speak Russian and Mongolian, right?
Yes.
So how is Mongolian compared to Russian? Is it completely different? Like the roots are not the same? Like how does the language look like?
There's a lot of like loanwords from Russian and Mongolian, but like it's not related to Russian at all. It's not an Indo-European language. It's related to like Korean and Japanese and Turkish.
Oh wow. So it's not any Russian who can speak Mongolian. I see. Wow.
So then you go and live among these people. And so what does your research, like the actual thing you're producing, look like? Is it like your opinions on how their society differs from ours? Like what is the outcome you're looking for?
It's a lot of it would be, you're trying to describe things, but it's, systems thinking. It's how are all of these things people are doing working together and also fitting into like larger context. So to bring it back to and camels and sheep and goats and stuff. So a lot of production of livestock in Mongolia is people who live in yurts or gers, as they're called in Mongolian. And they're moving around with their animals, and it looks very, untouched, and they've done this for thousands of years in the exact same way. But no, they were actually collectivized in, a communist system for decades. And, the state would bring them some level of fodder if they needed it, because it's, Mongolia and it's super cold and wintry and everything, so you need some support. But yeah, like there was like no meat processing set up in Mongolia. Most of these animals were just kind of like cut up into quarters and thrown on a train, and then the meat was all shipped to Russia, right?
Wow.
So on the one hand, it is very like low tech, and some aspects of it are very low tech and unmodernized, but other aspects of it are like no, like they were supplying the Soviet Union with meat.
Interesting.
And there's still a lot of politics around the Mongolian economy where they want to sell their meat products to other countries, but it's incredibly difficult for lots of reasons that then can get you very quickly to like sort of the highest level of talking about geopolitics and infrastructure.
So interesting. I have a stupid question. What did you eat for this whole time in Mongolia? I'm curious. The livestock?
I was having to eat a lot of horse meat actually. In the winter.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
They eat horse?
Yep.
Okay. It's like in a stew like things, or like how do they?
Well, there was a Korean-owned, like, have you guys heard of H Mart?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was an H Mart in this mining city, mining town, and the H Mart would have like whatever meat just like in a freezer, and it would be like like a chunk of. It wasn't off. It was off the bone, but it would just be like a chunk of like random, whatever. So you just buy like a frozen chunk of meat, and like in the winter, most of what they were selling at the supermarket was horse meat. So I just got the horse meat, which is a winter thing because it's considered to be like a hot meat. I don't really know like much about like sort of like the Western biological understanding of like what's the breakdown of the macronutrients that kind of make it a good thing to eat in the winter, but yeah, it's a good thing to eat in the winter.
It's like extra hardy, so it's good for when you're trying to whatever that may mean. That's really interesting.
It's kind of weird because it is pretty lean, but then sometimes people would be like, Marissa, you look too skinny, come over to my house, and then they would be like giving me really fatty meat and just
so it's a lot of
like,
meat,
hey, like a sheep tail and like a sheep liver, and so see, I needed people to help me. Like if I were just there like trying to live off of like the H Mart by myself, like it would have been really bad.
Oh, interesting. And what are beside meat, what do they eat? Like what are their like specific maybe vegetables or things like that they are known for?
So back to language, a lot of the words for vegetables are Chinese words, and vegetables are not super available. Mostly it's like onions and garlic, and the words for onion and garlic are actually the same as they are in Turkish.
Oh.
And there are potatoes. That's sort of like a relatively new, like since the 20th century thing. So
then
it's
the staple is like the meat. Is it rice based too?
There's like some rice, but it's not really. It's you can't grow rice in Mongolia, like, so it's all imported.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Your diet must have been tough. Did you have like difficulties adapting to this diet thing? Was it hard?
The first time I went there was like in 2007 for this like study abroad program, and then I was there like in the summer of 2009 and 2010, and then I did my most like kind of lived there for almost 2 years in like 2011 and 2012. So like I gradually kind of
get used to. You became a real Mongolian kind of person. Interesting.
And I'm from Wyoming, so when I was a little kid, like my family, like I was like cutting up elk, like my family was hunting. So and elk, by the way, is also very lean. So elk meat, horse meat, sort of similar there. But yeah, like so the idea of like just eating lots of meat and it being super cold and dry and stuff, I was brought up that way.
Interesting.
Did that have any weight on how you sort of picked where you were going? Because this is such a commitment, I would imagine, when you're setting out on research and you're like, obviously you spoke Russian, which was pertinent to that part of the world, and you learned Mongolian. Did you make the choice before you learned Mongolian to be like, this will be what I'm devoting my research to, and you knew what you were getting into? Or did it like that's just such a big commitment? That must be quite an important choice, quite a series of decisions to make.
I started studying Russian in high school, actually, because to bring it back to computers and things, Wyoming actually set up this was like early 2000s. They actually set up like a computer system, so anyone in any high school could take like community college classes, like online, basically. And randomly they were like offering Russian, so I was like, oh, that's cool, I'm interested in that. And so I actually started doing it in high school. And then I went to this college in Wisconsin that had a good Russian program and again anthropology program. And U.S.-Russian relations were sort of deteriorating, and it became impossible to do the sort of work I wanted to do in Russia, actually, for Americans. been by like
Sure.
2010.
Sure.
So I was like, oh, Mongolia is cool, like animals, like meat, like whatever. I liked all that stuff. So I wanted to like I do like study Russia from the perspective of Mongolia, which requires like some explanations for people. But yeah, that's kind of how like I went down that path gradually over years.
That's very interesting.
I have a question. So, for me, anthropology, I always saw it as like, studying in rough condition population that like are not very like touristic in a way, like unknown that we try to know. Is there like anthropology in like southern Italy or like in like
Yeah.
Caribbean islands where it's like nice to enjoy?
Yeah. Like I was on like a conference panel one time with a dude who was studying like a Neapolitan dairy production collective that were like also, right-wing ideologues basically. I think he did his PhD at Yale, like while I was at Princeton.
Nice.
Yeah, so similarly,
Okay,
right?
so-
It's like, hey, these are people like milking goats all the time, but they're also like, deeply concerned with these like geopolitical issues that actually have now become even more kind of to the forefront 10 years later or whatever. So yeah, there's actually a society. We have a society for the anthropology of Europe,
Okay.
et cetera, et cetera.
So you can pick wherever you like to be and then pick a subject of anthropology somewhere there. So that's good. That's good.
It's people. We're all people doing like weird things.
Yeah, for sure. So actually, this is a good segue. So people, when actually the first time when I heard that you were an anthropologist and then you worked in the tech industry, I was kind of saying like, why? But now I understand completely how this kind of fits into that, because I was going to introduce the user experience research and ask you actually to introduce that. But I see that like you're studying the reactions of people and how people see things in an anthropological way. This is what explain to us how this can be translated and like transitioned, and how did you do the transition to all your extensive experience in the tech industry?
Yeah, so the first role I had in tech was working on, this was like 2019. Google Health was working on a AI assistant, basically, to transcribe medical notes.
Google,
So when
you said Google
What was
Health,
that?
so this is like a medical products wing of Google or something? I've never heard that specific thing.
So you guys are probably familiar with like, I don't know what they're called now, like Google Research.
Oh, sure. Like, what's it called?
Definitely.
Labs or, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of,
people
it's kind of a research development thing, but it was focused on health. Okay, got it. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So some of them went over to this Google Health. Google Health isn't really a thing anymore, but a lot of people are still like Google, doing other Google research things. So yeah, if you guys remember, there was like the earlier kind of generation of LLMs. BERT was one of them. I think that was like the most famous. Transformers. So the product that we were working on was, basically it listens to a doctor and a patient in the exam room, and the idea is that like, instead of the doctor having to take notes and then write
An
up,
LLM will take it. Yeah,
like an LLM, there'll be like a microphone, and there'll be an LLM that like creates the note. That's the product idea.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was your role specifically there?
Yeah, so basically, they had gone through having doctors come in as subject matter experts. There's even something I'd never heard of before called like patient advocates, who are people who advocate for patients. I didn't learn too much about that. And they had been basically role playing all of these like, fake doctor patient experiences to try and design this product, right?
Okay.
So they had been doing that for I don't know how long before they were like, oh, let's like hire an anthropologist to like actually go to, one of the places where we're piloting this product and interview the doctors we actually have piloting it, and like stand in the corner of like the exam room and observe like how these doctor patient interactions really go and how doctors really use medical notes.
So what did they have, like what did they hope to get from you as an observer for this kind of like interactions?
That's a good question, because basically, as you may know from how I just sort of described it, I kind of was immediately like, I was kind of shocked actually that they had created this kind of interior set of experts who were telling them how to build it, because so one of the reasons anthropologists say, like, one thing that we spend a lot of time working on is like, is this idea of bias, right? Like, if you're an outsider and you're coming in to observe someone else's culture, someone else's society, like you automatically have a different, set of filters. And how you describe it is gonna just necessarily be different than how someone who's on the inside will describe it, right?
Sure.
So to me, I'm like, oh yeah, well of course, like these doctors like think that they're doing one thing, but they're not really doing that, right? Like they were basically, they have and they're literally trained, right, in medical school. This is what like the perfect doctor-patient interaction looks like. And this is how you transcribe people's symptoms, and this is how you diagnose them, and this is how you write it down. But it's an ideal.
Yeah.
Like that never works in practice. Right? So what I was bringing back was just like, I think was so destabilizing to what they had been doing, because it was all based on plus I had to confront the subject matter experts that they already had, and kind of be, there's no polite way to just be like, well, yeah, like the way you think you do things is not how you actually do them.
So you were the bad guy. Okay.
Yeah, basically. So basically what things kind of, and then of course it became apparent to me too, sort of doing the anthropology of this like research group that brought me in at the last minute. Oh, they need a product really fast because they're getting in trouble for not like, moving as quickly as they should be.
Delivering.
Yeah. So then it became like, okay, what's like some, sort of low hanging fruit I can help them identify to do, which is, it's fair.
Yeah, very cool. Did you see an improvement in the product? I mean, you said now it doesn't exist anymore, but like, did you see a big change once you got involved?
I mean, it's an issue. It's not really, because I didn't have a lot of insight into like what they were doing, and
Yeah.
with AI products, they were still they still had so much focus on training the model, trying to make the model better, et cetera, et cetera. I did get to sit with the engineers. I did talk to them a lot. They wanted to know what I was finding. They cared about what I was doing, but I'm not really sure how
They integrated it into the product.
What was that? Yeah, I'm not sure they could really integrate it into the project.
Huh, interesting. Okay. You also worked on the Google Nest, right? thing, like in Google. I'm just like seeing like your experiment was like this doctor notes, but also the Google Nest, right?
Yeah, yes. So
Interesting.
now it's called Google Home, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
did
so-
you work on the a specific part of it, or like cameras, or because it's a whole network of sort of smart home things now,
yes,
right?
Yes, exactly. So I was working with the app team.
Mm.
Mhm.
So it was exactly that. It was exactly the problem of people have all sorts of different setups, all sorts of different combinations of devices, and all sorts of different things they want to do with those devices and that they are doing with those devices. So how do you create like an app that is gonna be everything for all of these different use cases and networks that people have set up? So yeah, it was like not just how do they use their Nest camera or their Nest thermostat. It's like how do they also use this random, third-party garage door opener they bought on Amazon.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not.
And-
I do smart home stuff, but I'm not specifically knowledgeable about the Google things. But that they're trying to like interface with third-party stuff and figure out what
I
all
don't
people
know.
want.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
yeah.
It's complicated.
I don't know. I don't know if you worked on the Google Home itself, like how they reacted to different kind, for example, of accent. Because my Google Home never understands me, and I'm like, literally, I have to ask my U.S.-born kids who don't have accent to tell it what I want because it's always like assuming something wrong about what I'm saying. And this should be.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bias. They assume that everyone speaks a perfect English, right, with no accent.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't work on that, the voice command stuff. I was working on the app. So literally we were like, how do we make it so people can like, put the devices they want on their screen
I see.
in the order they want. So I was very much focused on the button pushing.
I see.
But it was
And did
interesting
you-
because
Yeah,
Mhm.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, they did actually also have somebody who so the kind of thing you're talking about, like that was handled more by like localization teams that were not sitting within Nest.
Oh, okay.
But one like user demographic they were interested in a lot was, people who are differently abled, some of whom like, can't move, but also like can't speak very well. So they actually had a UX researcher who was completely focused on like working with again sort of this like focus group of users. They kind of had created this sort of like experimental design kind of thing rather than like let's find people with different
Also, they don't have real people to test it?
it's weird, like they kind of do, but it's people that they are not Google employees, but who they have like a special relationship with, who they are, talking to constantly, basically.
Huh.
Yeah.
I see.
And that's another type of thing which you guys have probably heard. I listened to one of the other interviews and someone brought up dog fooding.
Yeah.
Dog fooding is also really huge at Google in certain product areas, especially, and it's really problematic because people really easily fall into a trap of like, oh, I designed this thing for myself, or oh, my grandparents or my parents are using this product and this is how they want to use it, and then just falling into this bias of extending that to everyone.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally. Did you do surveys? And like, I was curious about the technicality of your work there for them. Like, how was your work? Can you describe your work there specifically?
I did a lot of interviews, one-on-one interviews with people, and it was COVID, which was also very interesting because everybody was stuck in their house with their devices. And instead of bringing people into like this, you know, clinical lab space on Google Campus or whatever and interviewing them, you were video conferencing with them. So they were like literally in their house, like with their stuff.
With the Google Home, which is not working.
Which was great because it was again this kind of like field work, like immersive. I'm sort of sitting with you in your house while you're like, you know, fighting your thermostat or whatever. Yeah, but there were also surveys, and you know, using the things you learn from interviewing people in that kind of a context, and having conversations with people where you're like, oh, I wouldn't have even known to ask that question right on a survey without having done that more open-ended research first.
Right.
That sort of thing.
Yeah.
Did you design the questions of the surveys too?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you have any advice for someone who is designing a survey for whatever it may be, for an anthropologist's suggestion to how we can get effective question asking in surveys?
Yeah, I mean, there are some very boilerplate things you can use that, like I did this at Lowe's actually, that can be effective depending on what you're looking to do. If you're looking at like usability, you know, you need to. Yeah, it's kind of hard to give just like basic advice because, whatever, I'm the professional, so I'm just going to say it. But like everybody thinks they can design surveys,
right?
And it's not true.
True.
It's just really not true. Yeah. So I think one sort of just big tip is like don't have too many questions and don't make it too complex.
Yeah, fair enough.
And make sure that you're doing some other activity with which to contextualize the survey results.
Right. Yeah, I mean the too complex thing, I'm totally with you. Once Bob and I were at a museum in Chicago, and they were like, "Oh, well, you do this quick survey after you look at the thing," and I was like, "Sure, I love science. I'll help you out." And then it was like a packet of like hundreds of questions,
oh my God.
And I was like, I don't even remember these things in the view. How?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
That's funny because actually in high school, I worked for an anthropologist at a museum who. And we did some surveying, but it was like mostly just to satisfy the stakeholders that we had something quantitative, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is how it often works in these tech contexts. Like you do the survey, so you have the numbers and whatever, but you've designed the entire survey around. We were like sitting in the museum exhibits watching people.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were. That's how we were coming up with a lot of the information and how we were also kind of contextualizing the surveys. And when you're just sort of like standing around like that, people will come up and ask you questions and talk to you.
Right.
So you have to be on like in the field basically to kind of feel the yeah.
I mean, so like the app version of this would be like an eye tracker or something. You're sort of watching to see how they interact with it, right?
Yeah. Oh my God, eye trackers. I mean, you have to, no matter what, you have to know, like, you don't know, we can't get in somebody else's head and experience to like know why they're looking at something, right? So you still have to be able to talk to them and have more context for like, oh yeah, they looked at that part of the screen or they looked at that object, like that's the object. And we were actually timing people. So it was like, yes, they're looking at that, you know, Blackfeet teepee exhibit. Like, for like an average of like 15 minutes, right?
Is but that good or bad?
Yeah, exactly. But it's like, oh, but I also kind of know like this person from France was interested in this one painting because they came up and asked me, you know, like some random question about like Buffalo Bill or something afterwards, right? So you have to have like that context within which to situate your metrics. especially if you're working with stakeholders, because if you don't have a narrative, if you don't have a context within which to situate the metrics, other people will impose meaning on them for you, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that was kind of like my second question, is like, did you have the freedom that you needed to do your work as you intended and not like influenced by whatever stakeholders or like people who wanted the product as quick as possible were looking for from your own experience?
Yeah, I think generally,
And were they
generally,
listening to you?
that's the problem is like in the presentations, and the problem is then other people being like, oh, like, I'm gonna go do my own survey because you didn't find out the thing I wanted, so I'm gonna go do it myself, right?
Yeah, I see,
And
I see.
if that person is, you know, senior product manager or whatever, like, there's institutional forces that give them more power, no matter how crappy their survey was, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm interested, it seems like your work is a lot of embedding you in these different spaces that are very different. And so it sounds really exciting to get to learn about these completely disparate things. Was there ever a time you had like a specific challenge learning the domain knowledge in the thing that you were trying to work around?
I would say like so I used this word access a bit ago. Sometimes it can be difficult for different groups of researchers to talk to different groups of users. Sometimes it happens in companies where, like, you know, marketing has their network of people and they're very, you know, one group or like some product owner has this group of people they've been pilot testing something with, and so you're trying to basically get the user data to like contact the users to talk to them. But yeah, no, I mean my PhD in anthropology and everything, I feel like I am able to figure out what's going on with really pretty quickly, at a much higher degree of fidelity than the other stakeholders, frankly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, like one thing is language, right? Like, okay, I'm speaking English, the doctors are speaking English, the patients are mostly speaking English in these medical exams, but like there's a whole like specialized language, like professional technical language. If you know to be attended to that and be like, oh yeah, what's this word? I don't know what they're talking about. I need to learn what that word means and like when they're using it, right? If you are trained to do that, you can sort of unravel the culture like very quickly compared to someone who doesn't know to do that.
Just for my own understanding, what's the difference between like user experience UX and the UI, user interface research?
It depends. So yeah, like a lot of companies, you know, have user experience designers, and that is like, you know, literally like choosing the colors, making the buttons different sizes, and a lot of that is actually based on can actually be traced back to, you know, like designing like military aircraft and like NASA, like how do we design an astronaut suit that, you know, is gonna work for the most people. That's actually like the lineage of a lot of like user experience, right? Okay. So it's based on kind of an idea of like a human universal, and then designing to sort of what is at the universal level of humanity, like how do we perceive things, how do we create an airplane cockpit so that like people can design it and control it. But the
Do you
people
ever-
who will be trained to, right? So consumers are not trained to use an iPhone like an airplane cockpit if you're in the military, right?
Right. Do you ever, like in everyday life, like are you sitting here in Discord right now staring at this, getting completely distracted or annoyed at, you know, something, some choice, where you're like, how did they arrive at this? This is unusable. This is driving me crazy.
Oh.
Do you ever run into that as like that's a thing that you've spent so much time learning and becoming an expert about?
Well, I usually am just like going back to like, what am I trying to do with this? How do I do the thing I want to do? Right, to accomplish the task. So like right now, I'm like, oh, it would be cool if I could like, you know, blow up Bob's screen so I only see you playing Minecraft. But I'm also like, I don't really want to touch anything on this interface because I'm not sure how to get back to like this view, right?
If you click on my screen
click on
in
it, it
Discord, it
becomes
will do
big.
that. But
Yeah,
I
that's what
only
I
think
thought,
that.
I actually
right.
did try that, and then it didn't do that, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, well,
like,
because you're on the web browser version, which is
Oh, good
has
call.
it's one of those things where there's a lot of version differences between, and I only know the Windows desktop specifics, and
Yeah, but yeah, so like, but say if I really wanted to understand like the problems of like Discord and like write them and like make like a YouTube video and like, you know, drop a bomb on YouTube video being like, this is all the like problems of your affordances on your like, you know, streaming feature, blah, blah, blah. Like I would literally be like, you know, setting up like basically a scenario. And so there's like usability interviewing where literally, this is what I was doing at Google Nest a lot, where it was like, hey, like, walk me through this prototype. How would you turn your lights on, right? And then they click where they think they want to click. And then if it doesn't work, you know, it's like, oh, what do you think's going on now? Like, like literally just like walking through step by step, very granularly, to figure out like why the assumptions of the designers don't meet like the customers where they're at, the consumers where they're at.
I see.
Right.
Did you ever have any of those interviews end with the person getting mad and slamming down their phone or something, and just be like, never mind, keep your $50 or whatever? I don't know what the interaction was, but
I mean, yeah, like, oh god, there was one. I mean, the good thing too about doing those like online is like you can just be like, hey, thanks, that's all I need today, bye. But yeah, I think like that's only really happened like one time that the person got like really just was like, I don't really, this is making me feel like so uncomfortable and this is not gonna go anywhere. I mean, usually I'm like, yeah, I want them to get mad, you know, like I'm there to be mad at them and figure out like why they're getting frustrated.
Yeah.
It's like when I'm in Mongolia, like they're like, oh wait, you look Russian. Oh wait, you just said a Mongolian word. Oh, you speak Mongolian. Okay, let me like tell you how like my grandfather was like killed in the Stalin purges. Let's get drunk. Anyway, obviously that's like a darker and like a whole other sort of thing, but like that's what anthropologists are trained to do. So somebody getting mad because like their garage door opener doesn't connect to their Google Home app, like, yeah, I want to know why they're mad.
I have a feeling I would have been a very useful
Yeah,
interview
you could just
in
come
that
live in our
context.
house.
I love technology, and I get so mad at technology. I find all the little weak spots. It's the best.
Speaking about technology, so after that, I want you to tell us more about your work on some technology that I've never used, which is the avatars thing at Meta. So how was it? Tell us more. What did you do?
Yeah, so that was like, so they basically had like recruited, so this was like, do you guys remember like Metaverse, like when Facebook changed their name to Meta and like there was all the hype about like that.
The virtual office thing.
Yeah, and so how do you, yeah, the virtual office thing. Yeah, exactly. So I was
Like,
like working
have
at Meta when
people.
they were trying to make everybody have like meetings and headsets, and it was funny.
Yes.
But yeah, so they brought me in, and they had like their, you know, pool of people who were super users. But they weren't like people they were talking to all the time, but like it was people that they knew were using the headsets a lot.
The headset, you mean the virtual reality thing?
Yep, the virtual
Yeah, like the
reality
Quest
things.
headsets.
Quest headsets, yeah.
Yep.
So mostly what I was working on was like, you know, how do we help people express themselves? They want the way that they want to be the way that they want to express themselves, right? To feel that they're having a good conversation, and
So like human expression on the face of this weird things?
Yeah. Yeah,
Avatars?
how do you not have like uncanny valley happening to your own face when you're talking to somebody? And you're looking at them, and they're hopefully not having uncanny valley happen to their face.
Wow. Okay. And how did it work? What did you do? What did you find out?
Yeah, it was really interesting because, again, you know, the way people were using the headsets did not conform very well to the way the people designing the technology thought that they should, or, you know, would be using the technology. So one thing a lot of people were doing was they were like going to each other's houses, going to their living room, and you'd have like 4 people hanging out in someone's living room, but they would like watch, instead of just watching a movie on their TV, they would like watch a movie in the headsets. So they were like actually physically present with one another.
So what's the point of going to someone's house if you're like in a VR in your
a giant TV, man?
Yeah, well,
giant.
it's like you have your own movie theater, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it was. Like,
but you don't need
but
to
they
go
didn't really need avatars, right?
Yeah.
Right.
That's funny.
Yeah, and then, you know, there was just all of this stuff about like, why would I want to look like quote unquote myself if I can like look like, you know, a Marvel superhero or have wings or like whatever, right?
Yeah.
So that was like a constant tension too.
Was there? This isn't what you were trying to accomplish, but was there anything about that that sort of research and what you learned that changed how you feel about either tech or people? I'm sure you had designers and engineers who were not interested in what you had to say if it didn't line up with what they thought it should be, because that's how tech people are. But you must have, I don't know, you must have gotten something interesting. Was there anything that stands out to you?
Oh, I mean, it was very there's a lot of very interesting things going on. Also, just the corporate cultures of Facebook or Meta versus Google are like actually really different.
Oh,
and the way the companies are set up and how that influences how things like that go down.
How is it different? What was the difference?
Google is much more different organizations that are operating kind of more independently, I would say, and they're kind of trying to approach each other to use each other's tech and like, you know, integrate products. Mm-hmm. So there's like a lot of diplomacy, sort of like horizontal diplomacy happening. Mm-hmm. Which affects, you know, so actually that can be really problematic for a researcher, because there might be all of these, you know, contingencies you don't know about in terms of the product and what your stakeholders are trying to do to work with other product groups and stuff. But Facebook, Meta, is very vertically organized, and everybody is constantly trying to get their product demoed in front of Mark. And
just like
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that they just refer to him as Mark all the time is really significant, right? So,
You say they don't call him the Zuck?
no, and you know, I don't know what would happen to you if you did that on the inside.
I suspect I'll never have a chance to try, so I don't know if it's really going to come up, but...
Yeah. But yeah, so I felt like, you know, people wanted my results and were really interested in you know, what my findings were. But they were kind of being, like, deployed much more, like, okay, what does Mark want? Like, how is this gonna make our product what Mark wants, so like we can like get it in front of Mark, you know? So, and like Mark wanted this like very hyper realistic, like digital twinning, right? Kind of metaverse.
Interesting.
Yeah. I feel like this is a anthropology subject by itself, like how the environment of these like companies, how this like hierarchy organization works for each of them and how they are different. They should send an anthropologist there to study them.
Well, they did.
They didn't know they were studied. So interesting. So I guess so. Here's a question about this AI hype and your experience in this AI technology companies. Do you see AI as a positive or a negative force in terms of user experience?
I see it as a tool that people are using the way they want to use it to get what they want done.
Fair, yeah.
Well, like I'm imagining, like you've been saying all along, they're not using the tool the way that people think that they're using it, though, right?
Yeah, exactly. So to go back to the Google Health scenario, like and like a lot of other companies have been like, oh, this is a cool idea, like, you know, this like, the doctors and the patients should be talking to each other face to face, and the doctors shouldn't be taking notes, and like we should just create this machine that like transcribes it. Problematic for a lot of reasons, but the reason that I think is now super evident to all of us, because we've had LLM chatbots and stuff now for a couple of years. Yeah. It's really annoying to get a transcript that you have to review, right?
True.
Like things can very easily create more work for people.
Right. Yeah, well, I think it's interesting that that's a project you specifically worked on. My understanding is that exact tool is pretty widely implemented now. I think it's through Epic, the company that operates MyChart. But I know I have friends in California, in Kaiser Permanente, which is a really big network. I know in my doctor's network, which is a really big network in our region, we have the same thing where it's some kind of AI chatbot tool that creates summaries so that doctors don't have to go back and chart after the fact. And my doctor seems to like it. He specifically has mentioned it. I think he feels uncomfortable, and so he kind of mentions it every time I'm in the office. He's like, remember, we're kind of being recorded, or, you know, whatever. But he has specifically commented that he loves it, and he hates charting. But I think that's...
And see, the company that successfully did it is Epic, who are like, they know they know the whole system backwards and forwards. Like they designed, right? So they have an intimate understanding of all these other things, like, oh yes, doctors don't just, you know, use this to document the conversation they just had with the patient. Like they also, you know that they're using this as like a communication device, right? Like, oh, this person has like a kidney problem or something, so their kidney specialist is going to see it. So part of the note is going to be me like tagging this thing for them or something like that, right? So Epic knows the context, in a very deeply like anthropologically rich kind of way to design it in a way that doctors will use it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's
So,
funny
so
that exact example you gave. My doctor absolutely does that when there's something that comes up where he knows another doctor is going to have to look at, or he'll be like, "Oh, pause the conversation," and he'll say a sentence or a couple sentences with some buzzwords specifically to create that exact. It's like he's footnoting our conversation,
like,
right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, he does it in
So
real
I
time
like,
so that the recording has it and he doesn't have to go back and put it in or anything like that.
Yes. Yeah, perfect. Awesome.
Yeah, that's funny.
So then question, why then Google is trying to compete with Epic, who has like the monopoly of all this, because they are specialized in like software for doctors and have like 60% of American have like Epic records with them.
Yeah.
Why Google
So this
is like
was-
competing? I don't understand.
This was 2019, and they had BERT and Transformers, and they thought they had a hammer for a nail, and that their model would overcome all of the details of how people actually use things.
So I do have a question in general, just about how you get the signal from the noise, right? So if you're dealing on a regular basis with like individual people, right? All these people that you're talking to, everybody's going to be so different, right? So when is it something that you would escalate to be like, oh, this concern is actually valid? Would like multiple people have to say it, or how do you determine what makes it into your story for you?
Oh, well, yeah, that's why it takes talking to different people, and like if you can go into these spaces physically and hang out with people and observe them. But it takes less than you'd think, right? So surveys, one reason people like the idea of surveys who aren't social scientists is because they're like, oh, I'm going to get a big number, that's going to be representative of something. But honestly, like to learn enough to kind of, start getting those patterns coming out, you kind of only need to usually talk to like 5 to 10 different people, within a domain, start seeing patterns, right?
Interesting.
Yeah, and so at Lowe's, we haven't talked about Lowe's Home Improvement at all, but Lowe's Home Improvement, I was working on enterprise tools.
Good segue. So go ahead, talk to us about Lowe's.
Yeah.
So what do you do there?
So we were working on like an AI assistant that would be for Lowe's employees. And so that was actually like, wasn't just doing the interviews with like the different types of employees who were piloting the tool or might potentially use the tool or whatever to learn about like their line of the business. Like I was also like working in the tech, like in the tech development. So I saw like all these other products that were being developed. So there was a lot of input to see patterns emerging from overlapping domains, essentially. Yeah.
What was the purpose of this AI for Lowe's?
Yeah.
Like
So.
Yeah.
Yep. So these companies have retail companies, right? They buy products from manufacturers, and they price those to sell them to consumers, right? And you have to make more money selling it to consumers than you make from buying it from your manufacturers. So basically, AI to help them
like
decide
pricing.
Yep, and it's literally called pricing.
But then like they go into like the Amazon and the competitors and others and like see how much they're doing and then like price themselves accordingly.
That's like one approach, but it's not sufficient for lots of reasons. So So Lowe's actually, I don't know if this is still true or not, but they were, when I was working there, they were like selling the most home appliances of any company in the US.
Oh.
And I was in a
Actually-
Home Depot recently, and I had to buy a dehumidifier, and I'm pretty sure Lowe's is still like selling the most appliances. And the way they do that is, okay, like how many companies make fridges, right? Like you could probably name like the top brands, right?
Sure.
Fairly easily, we can all just do
Yeah.
that. So they have, human relationships with other people at those companies. It's not simply like going on the other websites and scraping your competitors' prices, because you don't really have competitors, and things are just not really sold that way, right? If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what was the user, like your specific job of the user experience there? What did you do?
Yeah, it was like figure out how pricing decisions are made, and advise the AI teams trying to automate different parts of that process.
I see. Well,
Which was actually very similar to the doctor space, because you had a hierarchy of people in roles, right? So if you talk if you just have a doctor that's like not in the context of the clinic, right, where you're actually watching them interact or talking to them while they're at work, interacting with all of their team, if you just pull them into a company and have them as a subject matter expert, they might very well tell you, oh, medical assistants, like we should just automate what they do, right?
Sure.
But in practice, medical assistants are doing more than anyone else, right? And have had tons of other things put on their shoulders.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
It's more
so
work
something
for
very
them.
similar was happening at Lowe's with like the pricing managers versus the pricing analysts, and like who should do what, and like whose work should be automated and whatever. And if you just kind of talk to them without knowing the larger context, or like really observing what they do to make the decisions, and like understand their workflow as it is without the AI, you get like down the wrong path very quickly.
Yeah. So it seems that these tech companies see the value that you are bringing as an anthropologist to their product. But I have this feeling that like they hire anthropologists to do the work, and then they get the report, and then sometimes they apply it, but it's always limited or like partial. Do you have this feeling, or like maybe I'm wrong, and like they are kind of trying to integrate the anthropological side into their product?
Yeah, I think a pretty common sense amongst the community of practitioners is that we're brought in way too late. And it's the design process, as it's called, is kind of being done backwards.
I see. Yeah.
As a statistician, we have that problem all the time too.
Yeah. Tell me more. I would see that too a little bit, just kind of being like, okay, everything is set up to collect, like not even doing quantitative stuff myself really very much. Just be like, okay, all this data that's been collected has been collected with like this set of assumptions, right?
Yes, exactly.
That kind of thing. Yeah.
Yes, they give you the data and they're like, tell us the answers. And you're like, you can't infer what you want to infer from how you collected this data.
Can't you just clean it? Can't you just clean it? And you're like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
100%. And then you make up a bunch of simulations to try and compare things to, and it's never going to be the same as just being in on the design process.
Right.
Okay. I want to kind of talk about accessibility And I don't know, it's like a close cousin to user experience is like accessibility. Can you tell us like what it is and why it matters, and how do we do it um,
Ah,
in a good way?
okay, super cynical response, but it's kind of its own field because of the law, right?
Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. Hmm.
At least in this country, right? A lot of other
Sure.
countries like Russia and Mongolia, right? There's no there's no persons with
Accessibility
disability
laws.
there.
Yeah, sure. But how is it
Um,
viewed? I'm curious because you were inside these tech companies. How accessibility is viewed from the inside of the tech companies? Is it viewed as a burden, or is like a requirement that is super important when you do the design or you do the UX?
I would say, unfortunately, I haven't really observed. I've observed like there being people who are specialists on that, and they're doing their research, and they're doing their focus groups and all of that. But I can't say that I've really seen it be integrated back into the product.
Mm.
And there, but there are also lots of just kind of standard practices that like designers especially have implemented, right? So like, color contrast and
Mm.
things like that. But again, that's all kind of coming back from this idea of like what are human universals and like
Yeah. I've seen
I don't know.
a study. I've seen a study about that. Like I've read recently like a study where like different LLMs were asked to produce like website that were
Hmm.
then scored on accessibility. And spoiler alert is like they did
Oh
all very
yeah.
terrible. So
Only going to be
why
as
did
good as like the stuff it trained on, right? Or that it scraped,
yeah,
right?
that's true. That's true. I was going to say like why do you think that is? But yeah, it's the problem is like how do you train them? Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm afraid that a lot of um what I'm gathering is that a lot of UX work now is, oh, the product manager, used one of these AI tools to create an interface,
Yuck.
and then they just want the UX designers to go in and fix it, right? Which
In that
is
case, would
basically
you
they have
start from scratch, or would you try and
exactly.
salvage?
Yeah.
I imagine there's a lot of
You
redoing
you
of things if you're starting from
you
that
you
point.
basically have to completely redo it and completely rebuild it and let the product manager think that it's their thing, right? So it's this like extremely soul crushing position to be in.
Yeah, that's true. So in this kind of spirit, so I have a specific question. I wanted to know your opinion about that. It is about Apple, because so Apple has long been known for its focus on design and usability.
Mhm.
At least like it was like I've always seen it like this, like very great design and everything. So for a long time, like its human interface guideline were like revered like
Mhm.
as like the gold standard, and yet like
Yeah.
the iOS 26 and macOS Tahoe introduced this like liquid glass thing, and like
Oh
the
yeah.
Apple's new UX standard that has been like terribly received, and like which violates many of their own human interface guideline.
Yeah.
So what's your take on that? What happened? Where are the
Um.
researcher there?
Well, they don't. Yeah. From what I have gathered, like they don't have UX research in the way that like Google has had, and a lot of the Meta UX researchers were from Google actually.
Oh.
Um. Whereas, yeah, Apple's approach has been, we're designing this thing, and based on our understanding of like, human aesthetics and blah blah blah, we're gonna design this really top-down thing, and people will like learn how to use it. We'll learn to use it, and they'll like it. Um, and I mean, Apple has been able to get away with a lot, I think, because it's a luxury product,
Yeah, it's true.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of features like people frankly don't use, right? So they Yeah, no, I think watching people use iPhones is hilarious. Um, you know,
Why is that? Why is that?
it's because it doesn't look anything like, how an iPhone ad like should, like it's like I'm just thinking of this time I was like at a park, like my friend was performing in a concert or something, and there was like somebody who just didn't lock their screen, and like it was just their back pocket was. I was also working on something for Google Home at the time, but about like screen locking and stuff. But yeah, I mean it doesn't they I think they've made it so that like it can be used in like a very unpretty way. But yeah, it's a luxury product, and people and they've also done this. They've also pioneered this whole model too of like they want people to basically be subscribing to having the new device.
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
So this is actually the second part of my question, because like, there's a famous journalist or writer, Cory Doctorow, who coined the term enshittification.
Yeah.
To describe like how big platform like started deteriorating their user interface to maximize profit once their user were like locked in. Like you cannot get out of this product, and then they just don't care. Like, did you experience this firsthand?
So if we were going to talk about Apple, and again, like I'm just speaking as like someone who has an iPhone.
Sure.
The only thing I've really seen maybe be like this recently was like when they redesigned the photo app. But I think they do a lot of. I think that it seems like they're very good at being like. So I don't know if any of you guys were like started getting a lot of spam calls, but I guess my number got leaked by Verizon or something. There was like a Verizon breach like a month or two ago, and I suddenly started getting like 7 or 8 phone calls, like spam phone calls a day, like. And actually very quickly I got this like feature update that was Apple was like, oh yeah, just like, hey, like we're upping our spam filtering. And I also did myself just the research to be like, oh, Apple has a feature where you can just like screen all your calls by asking the caller who's not in your contacts like to state a reason why they're calling. So I put that on. So I think like it does seem like Apple does have like they know. It seems to me like they know like the really big pain points for their users, and they fix that. But then there's also a bunch of other stuff that either like it doesn't matter because it's new, or just nobody's really using that feature. So I don't know.
Yeah. For someone who works in user experience research, like it must be like everything you touch, you are critical of it, right? So, speaking back to Google specifically, just to have like your opinion about like these new features that I see that I kind of like, I'm curious about your take on it. It's the Google AI overviews. On like one hand, it seems like a great UX, like you ask a question, get the answer, and it's convenient. But then on the other hand, there are like some issues like accuracy sometimes, stealing context, and like traffic from website. So what's your take on that? How do you think they should have done it?
I mean, it looks like to me it's kind of been treated like a outgrowth of search, right? Kind of based on how people use search, and have a lot of the same issues, right? Like you're going to be, the result is biased by whatever is causing whatever to float to the top, right?
Yeah. But can you turn it off? Like, can you remove all these things from the Google search, simple Google search? I want to go backward to when it was simple.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Oh, yeah, I don't know because I don't actually use Chrome or.
Oh, interesting. Well, I was going to say, my understanding is that there's no way to turn it off in the UI, but if you just include a minus AI, anyone who doesn't know about search parameters, if you finish every query or start every query with minus AI, it will not include the AI summary. My understanding is that that works. I don't do that.
Did you?
Yeah,
regularly.
that sounds very plausible. That sounds really plausible to me because, yeah.
I'm curious
Because they
though.
have it now.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, you said you don't use Google. Are you a DuckDuckGo user? Bing? What? I'm assuming you need to use search engines. So what is your go-to?
I usually just use like Bing, or I guess I use Google search on my phone because I have Safari.
Sure. Yeah, it defaults to
usually
Google. So
I usually just scroll past the AI overview, or I mean, I'm like, okay, this is something that's created by an algorithm. Like, I need to try to be conscious of what information I'm looking for and like contextualize the result I'm getting, right? Rather than just like click on the first thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I have another like hot topic thing about a subject, which is OpenClaw. Do you know about OpenClaw?
That's the Chinese thing, right?
Yeah, like this personal AI assistant that has access to your entire.
Right, the agent. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is that the one that like? Is that the one that like drained that guy's bank account or whatever?
So it could happen. So there are like a ton of issues with that. Like, you like first, this is just like a first proof of concept that like the issues, like you give him total control of your basically life online.
Yeah.
So I was curious, like, are personal AIs the only user interface we'll need in the future? Like in terms of like design, you think this is the way to go? Like how would you see this evolving, these personal AIs?
It requires just a bunch of other decisions, right? Like, yeah, like if you're going to just give it complete control over your operating system and access to all of your passwords and password protected things and bank accounts, like something bad is going to happen, right? So, right? Or, so I think,
yeah, go ahead.
It just requires you to do a different kind of work than you were doing before, right? To set it up and monitor it and.
But how do you see the direction of these products in the future are going?
Yeah, it's a good question because like it's interesting because I do think it sounds like people are using them a lot, but they're doing it in like a pretty like individualized way. And I don't even know how people are studying how people are using them. And I would imagine a lot of the findings are not really, it is very different. Like I guess like the latest thing was like, oh, we're going to use AI to sell people things. Right?
Yeah.
And that doesn't seem to be working very well, right? Because I think people are having these, conversations with their chatbot about like, say, they're working out, right? This was a conversation I was having with someone the other day. Like they were like, oh yeah, I was talking to Claude and like, they told me to try doing like a zone 2 workout. I don't know what a zone 2 workout is, right? So then it becomes sort of like a Google search type behavior, right? Like they don't want some supplement ad to pop up in their chat, right? And he was talking to us about it, at our, gym or whatever, because he was like, he was basically being like, do you guys know what a zone 2 is? Like, what do you, so in that sense, now the chatbot is kind of like a participant in like a conversation of humans. So How do you like monetize this and like productize this?
Yeah. I mean, it is, this is an unscientific take, but it is interesting to me that they're making these tools like chatbots. These companies are trying to position them where it's like ChatGPT is your buddy. You could talk to Gemini like you're talking to a person, and then the monetization of that is, well, imagine you had a friend, but that friend had a job, and their job was to be your friend, but also to make sure that you made money for their boss. Would you stay friends with that friend? is that a friend
Yeah,
you would
and
keep?
actually-
Because it
Yeah,
doesn't
and I-
sound like a good friend.
No. Yeah, and like Gemini too. Like I've used Gemini a lot, and like I've gotten things out of it that are like suggesting that it's like, so Gemini means like twin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, what is it a twin of? Is it supposed to be a twin of the user? Like, that gets even weirder, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and yeah, there's been a number of completely ridiculous sounding projects of like, I forget who it was. Some company was like, oh, give us, create these recordings. We'll give you a script. Create these recordings from grandma. And then after grandma dies, we'll make virtual grandma. Then you can always go back and talk to her. Like, man,
Well, this is just Black Mirror. You're just
yeah,
doing Black
well,
Mirror.
it sounds like a bit. It sounds like a bad SNL sketch or a Black Mirror episode. Like I hope no real human hears that and is like, oh, we should keep grandma. They're right. These guys know what I like.
mean,
But
if you had somebody's Facebook profile, like, and they've been using Facebook profile for 20 years or whatever, like, you could probably, have a model that sounds a lot like them, right?
Yep.
But it would also probably be Uncanny Valley pretty quick, and yeah, again, why do you even want to do that? Like, probably. That's a whole other thing.
But
right?
I don't think anyone has, I mean, it's annoying sometimes, but I don't think anyone who is used to using computers gets on Google and sees an ad for a thing, or they're searching for, whatever, so what gym should I go to? And it's like, oh, here, it's Planet Fitness is a sponsor. You should go to Planet Fitness. It's annoying. It's part of the world that we live in, but it's because Google's not your friend, right? You don't sit down and be like, hey, Google, I'm looking to start working out. Do you have any gym recommend? Like, you go to Google and you're like, gym near my area code 94336. And, it's a funny, I don't know how they think they're going to monetize that. It's funny.
Like, I would say, too, something about Google, I was very shocked, like, working there, like, how invested people are in, like, it is very consistent with, like, their branding, right? Like, oh, we're being helpful, right? Like, we just want to be helpful, right?
Yeah.
So there is this sense of, like, we're experts organizing the world's knowledge and, like, doing this great service for humanity and stuff, right? Whereas at Meta, it's like, we're building this cool thing, and, like, hacker or whatever, like, that is like, tangible in, like, the workplace culture or whatever. But yeah, it's like, no, like, Google sells ads, right? Like,
Yeah, this is the main
like,
business.
we all know how you get your search, your result up, like, popped up in an algorithm, right? Like AdSense and all of that. So
I mean, AdSense is one of my main sources of income. I'm a professional content creator. YouTube is a core part of where I put my online. That's just part of my job at this point. But I think, anyway, just a funny comparison. All these, companies are starting to implement ways to monetize things and having ads pop up, and it's surprising to me that they don't understand why that is so much more off-putting than a banner ad on the website you use every day, or Google telling you, these are the 5 sponsored gym brands we recommend you to use. It's
right.
interesting.
And I think they do understand it because, like, you have, like, this Csikszentmihalyi idea of flow, like the flow state, and, like, what is an immersive experience, and, like, dopamine and all that. Like, they understand that, like, very intimately, right? So, breaking the user's flow state and their dopamine rewards should be very obvious. Right? It's not going to work very well.
So we don't have very much time left. As we're running out of time here, chat, if you would like to ask any questions to the very, very interesting Marissa here, please go ahead and ask your questions now.
Yes. And while we're waiting for question, Amanda, can you talk a little bit about the rating system and the idea of the rating system to Marissa?
Sure. So Marissa, we've been working on transparency in AI, and something that we can do right now is get people to talk about how and when they're using AI. And so we've come up with this idea of this like very simple rating system that's sort of loosely based on a rating system they have for like autonomous vehicles. It's like a 0 to 5 rating on like how autonomous the vehicle actually is, right? Whether it's just like cruise control or et cetera, et cetera. So there's a very obvious equivalent we've made to like how autonomous, if you will, how much AI is in whatever product, social, whether it be social media, whether it be a paper, whether it be an article, whether it be an image or a video, even how much AI has gone into that and what level of AI you're interacting with when you're interacting with that product. And so we have our own work. We call it the real system, which is reported engagement with AI level, which is real. And so it's like a 0 to 5 rating. And so the first few levels, the first one is you're basically in the dark ages, not using anything. 1 is like typical automation type things, but no Gen AI. 2 is you use it for like brainstorming and an interactive process where nothing actually makes it into the final product that actually is AI. And then 3 through 5 are just like varying levels of some Gen AI content getting into your actual system, and like that people will interact with at various levels. So 3 is barely anything, 4 is moderate, and 5 is pretty much full AI. So theoretically, we like imagine this world where maybe you're scrolling social media or you're doing different things, and you can maybe filter your feed by I only want to see things 3 or lower, so you don't get any videos of dogs saving babies or whatever is the new thing at the moment. I guess 2 questions.
They are fake?
Yes, they are fake. Sorry, Ben.
I was almost getting stuck because of that. I felt like I'm missing out.
Well, so the first question is just like what you think about this, if you have any feedback for us. But then interestingly, like your perspective I think is unique. Maybe if you have any advice to us on how we could work or like pitch these big tech companies to get them to come on board with us, because I think this is like a feature that would be good for humans now, but they don't really have the prerogative to do such, and we're trying to lobby for that. And if you have any advice on that, I would greatly appreciate it, selfishly.
Yeah, no, I think it's I like how you said getting people to talk about this and think about it, and I think it's a great idea. I mean, it's like a messy thing, right? Because you have like people who decides, you know, what's a 1 and what's a 2 and what's a 3 and what's a 4 and a 5. But again, it should be a conversation, and it should be even if people are seeing it come up on their feed, then they know and they can ask that question and go deeper. So I think it's a great idea. As far as like how it would be implemented by big tech companies, I'm just trying to think how it would even be done. But again, I think it's something that they should want to do. And like I've been observing that there are, you know, spaces on the internet, and not to mention just like, you know, in the real world or whatever, the meat world or whatever we call it, that you know, AI is it's a no AI zone, right? And somebody posts, you know, a piece of art or something, and they mention they used AI, or someone accuses them of it being AI, and they basically get you know, piled on. So I think we're seeing this happen organically, that, you know, users are attentive to it and are going to code your stuff whether you're involved or not, maybe, is the answer.
Yeah. Right. And it comes from like just like the full disclosure. Like we are not against the using AI, but like
Yeah.
as you buy any product, you read the ingredients are there. Like you can eat the whatever you're buying without thinking about the ingredient in it. But for the people who want to have the information, I think it's important to have it.
Mhm.
So that's why you're seeing a 1 rating under Bob's picture.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
whatever
Yeah.
you produce,
Yeah, well, and even we had a funny interaction with that, right? As our organization, we're pretty conscious about when and how we use AI and where. But the first time I streamed with a real rating visible, I was like, it's a 0. It's just me playing video games, and I did the whole stream. And then Eric, who is one of our other scientific researchers, was talking to Mandy and was like, hey, does Bob use a green screen, or how does he remove his background? Is that an AI tool? And I had to go look, and it is. It's so my stream rating is actually a 1 because I do that background removal thing, which is an NVIDIA tool. But and then someone else was like, "Do you know if any of your music has AI in it?" I was like, "I mean, I don't think so." But I've never looked. It's tough to be conscious of every space where it could be coming in. But even that is an important part of this sort of system of if you're making something, putting something out there, try and be as conscious as you can, at least, and then consumers can know if you put a label on it. But
and I think it helps to be thinking of back to just sort of UX research principles or whatever too. People are not just passively consuming products, they're doing something with that product. There's a use for it, right? So what would be the use of what might I be using something for that I need to know if AI contributed it to it, right? So say I'm compiling a huge training set of images, right? I might want to know parts of the backgrounds are removed or something. And for you guys, you're trying to develop the rating system, so you're having these conversations about what really counts as a 1, that's a different type of use of the ratings, create the ratings. Anyway.
And they are evolving these ratings with the technologies. So it's not set in stones, and we are open to discussion of whether it will be a 1. Technology comes evolves so quickly that what we thought would be considered a 1, could be a 2 or something when there will be more stuff.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking back to doctors, having these sort of rating systems, it probably is going to appear as something dealing with liability and things like that, right? How can I use something if I don't really know the source of it? Right. If I'm a doctor or a lawyer or something, I probably would like to be able to, CYA and be like, oh, well, that source I used said it was 0, so,
Right.
I assumed that account that Marissa wrote on her blog about the Russian railroad system in Mongolia was, based on her observations, not her running Russian news sources through a Google Translate, right?
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the one question we did get in chat, and I'm going to extend it a little bit, chat, I hope you don't mind, is your thoughts on agentic AI and how you think that will evolve the UX experience if it's not real humans using the tools anymore.
Yeah, good question.
Well, it is still real humans, right? So, it's still... It's
maybe I didn't ask it very well.
Somewhere in the chain. What was that?
So maybe I didn't ask it quite right. That agentic AI is where AIs go out and get you a reservation at right. And so that reservation site, it's not really a human that would go to it to press the right set of buttons anymore. It would be an AI that would need to be trained somehow. Not really trained, but sort of generally aware. Do you think that this is going to impact your field and you'll have agents that are your users?
mean,
We're,
for that
we're
exact use
interviewing
case,
agents.
the way that the way that the AI agent interacts with the UI, like it doesn't matter if it's a human or a agent interacting with the UI, right? Like maybe it gets to a point where there is no user interface that's like human vision oriented, right?
Right.
But the way it is right now, it's like, okay, the agent is interacting with like the CSS and the JavaScript,
Mhm.
whereas like the human is looking at where the button is and touching the button, you know? So it's not, I don't think it's really, doesn't really matter at this point for UX designers. And all of this has basically been designed for humans. It's the agents are basically looking at something that's been designed for humans and is being used by humans. So it's kind of all just piggybacking on top of that, right? So.
Mhm.
So in other words, you know, we talk always about like, is AI going to replace my work? I do think that anthropologists are safe in this perspective, right?
To the extent that like anybody like anybody in any industry is safe, right? Because it depends on, right, it doesn't matter what your utility is or designing a good product and all that stuff, right? So that does not guarantee anybody work in and of itself, right? So
That's true, because the big tech have to allow it to be used, these like anthropology side of it. So
yeah. When the market is just favoring like building big data centers and getting higher numbers and higher benchmarking, like they don't really need anthropologists or UX designers.
Well, on that uplifting note, I think we are out of time. But thank you so much for the really interesting conversation today. I definitely feel like I learned a lot about anthropology and UX design, and I really appreciate you coming to talk to us.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah, this was fantastic.
This was really fun.
Yeah, and I feel we didn't cover even like the other parts of your career. We need to have you back again to talk about more stuff. But thank you so much for doing that. And we, again, as Mandy said, we learned so much about the anthropology, about the use of it in the UX research, and it's just like great to see this career path and this knowledge used. So great.
Yeah, and it's great to learn about your guys' organization, and I will be following, and we'll all see where this stuff goes.
And use our rating.
Yeah.
Amen. Shameless plug.
Oh, yeah.
Rating.
The rating is cool, and I'm definitely looking forward to digging into that.
Yeah, it is on our website. We have a whole section of the real rating.
Yeah, well, we've been fighting over flowcharts on the back end, so there's going to be more information coming very soon on it too.
Well, and I don't know if you have anything in particular, but we do like to give guests the opportunity. If there's anything you want to plug, if you have a website or a project or survey you're looking for responses on or anything at all, and if there's nothing, that's totally fine. But
I can't think of anything right now, but oh, I know. I'm sort of involved with this language initiative at Stanford called Silicon. If you're interested in Unicode and character display for digitally disadvantaged languages, go to silicon.stanford.edu. Have a really cool program there.
Awesome.
Oh. And this is something that we need to talk more about in the next episode with you.
Yes. I actually literally have a chapter I need to work on revising that just dropped in my inbox yesterday to get back to working on that stuff. But it's also very different than anything we discussed today in some ways. Yeah,
Seems
that's
very,
kind of
very
the other tech thing. That's like the other tech thing I've been involved in is Unicode and whatnot, which is also going back to AI because, you know, if you can't write these languages digitally, like you cannot, ingest them into AI into models. So, it's a huge issue.
Right. Yeah, well, we should talk more about that.
Yeah.
But if you have a heart out, if you have to go, no worries. We are in the section where we're wrapping up the stream. We just sort of hang out and talk to chat for a minute while I do all of our organizational plugs. But you are not at all obligated to listen to any of that.
Yeah.
But you can hang out.
I think I'll duck out. But yeah, thanks a lot, guys. This was really cool.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Marissa.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.
And chat, that is going to be the end of the stream. Oh, that's aggressive music. Thank you, computer. That's the aggressive end of stream music that just started playing.
You were so good when she started talking about Lowe's and fridges. I'm so proud of you.
And I didn't say anything rude.
No, you didn't.
I think it's hilarious that Lowe's sells the most Of course they sell the most appliances.
Well, they do. That's why we bought it from there.
Sure.
And it wasn't Lowe's fault, for the record, Chad. It wasn't theirs.
It was the company that they hired.
Yeah, it was a company that they worked with anyway.
But Chad, if you don't already, make sure you follow Real Good on Twitch or on YouTube or on TikTok. That's where the streams were. Also, we're on Instagram. Mandy will teach you things, and there are things you want to learn, trust me. But also check out the website. We have a newsletter that you can sign up for if you want to keep in touch. Every couple weeks there'll be updates on what we got going on or interesting things, or most recently there was an update about, or there will be an update about Mandy traveling and talking at a conference on uncertainty quantifications, and had a really
also
interesting
some exciting
time.
news on research. I talk way too long on it. Sorry.
Yeah, there's been some cool developments in the research of late. And if you want to catch up on any of that, sign up for the newsletter. We also have volunteer groups. If you want to get involved, there are a number of different ways to get involved, including there's a group of people interested in the machine learning stuff who have monthly presentations where volunteers are giving presentations. Eric, one of our staff members, is giving a presentation talking about different scientific topics or their research or whatever. There is also a fundraising page. If you're a streamer and you want to get involved, hit me up and I will get you hooked up. Also check out the Real Good Regiment if you don't know what they are. You should watch. I streamed with them once. I was there, but you should watch their streams. Check them out. What else am I missing? Oh, the real rating stuff is on the website. I feel like I'm forgetting something really painfully obvious. Am I forgetting
Merch?
Something? Merch is on the website. We have merch now, and it's pretty funny. And pretty good.
And scary tapes.
Oh, and the scary tapes. That's right, the writing competition. If you are 18 or older and you are interested in writing, or you are a writer, we are hosting a writing competition. The winners of that competition will receive a cash prize, but also the winners will have their stories made into podcast episodes. I'm being slaughtered by an Enderman. Okay. They will have their winning stories made into podcast episodes, potentially read by one of the hosts of Distractable, myself or Mark or Wade, or potentially other people. That part is pretty far in the future. They'll be released around Halloween. But the writing competition is soon. Submissions will be open fairly soon, and you can submit. And there are some guidelines. All that information is on the website. It's a great website. There's lots of stuff on the website. You should look at the website. Or look at the link in chat, because AJ's in chat. Anyway, we're out of here, chat. That's going to be the end of the stream. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being so nice to the guests. That was a really interesting conversation. I didn't know what to expect. That was fascinating. Marissa had some very interesting experiences and research. So if you like that, you should come back, because every 2 weeks, we do more of that. More people, more science.
I mean, the people are very different every time. I think that's my favorite part. We get to learn so much about something completely new.
Mm-hmm.
We built this house that I'm standing in Minecraft out of concrete while talking to a material scientist about her work on an environmentally friendly concrete. I forget what it was. Her specific concrete she was working on.
It was biochar, like a concrete.
Right.
Professor Laurie Tunstall.
We have talked to a lot of people, and their clips are on our social media. So you could go back and you could look at some clips and see what you've been missing. But we're out of here, chat. Thanks for hanging out. Have a good rest of your day. We'll see you next Thursday
Are you gonna raid the Real Regiment?
I already did it. Oh, Real Regiment.
Oh, okay.
I raided my channel into this channel, but we can raid the Real Regiment.
That's what I was saying, because they're playing
yes,
now.
Yes. Keith. How do I raid a channel?
I think he's not live.
Oh, yeah. Are they live somewhere?
Well, they must be, right? Oh, raid Tasha or Cadet Liberty, he says in chat. Because he's not playing tonight.
Cadet Liberty, Helldivers 2. Coming in hot. There we go. Raid coming. So we're going to raid over. This is the Real Good Regiment. If you haven't watched them, they play Helldivers. They are, I think, all or mostly volunteers. They do light role playing. It's very fun. But we're out of here, chat. Join the raid. Go watch. Thank you so much for hanging out. We'll see you next week with a team stream. It'll be just as interesting. It'll just be us being interesting instead of a fascinating
Probably
guest.
way more real rating, blah, 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 because that's what we like to talk about. But
primarily.
Honestly, chat, it's so exciting. Everyone's so on board. Let's do this.
All right. We out of here, chat. See ya.
Bye.